Hi there. Now it's been pointed out to me that on the camera you may not have seen the stitches because when you're wool felting and wool stitching on felt, the stitches sink in. So I'm just going to lift this up and show you. So here you can see the stitch quite clearly how I've stitched over. And if you come to this point here, you can see the bottom thread coming up. So that's me before I changed my tension and pulled the top thread down so the bobbin thread was tighter. So when you're sewing, you need to make sure that you always check that before you start stitching. So this was the straight stitching, and then I went to some of the blanket stitches. So if I come over here slowly, and the zigzag stitches, so you can see a little bit clearer on here now how the stitches look when they are stitching over, because we realized they didn't show up very good on the video. Okay, so once you've done all your stitching like that, then what you can do is you can get your piece of your fabric and you can decide how you want to embellish your work. So you can do a couple of things. You can put some felt pieces on, which I have here, or you can do all sorts of things, whatever you want to do. You can add your felt pieces on, and what I do to make it easier is I just glue them on. So if I'm going to be doing felt pieces onto here, I might just cut out a shape. You know what I'm like, I don't really have any rules. Just cut out a shape. And if I'm going to be putting that on there, then I will just get my glue pen, wind my glue pen out, and just put a little bit of glue on there. So I'm not Vliza fixing anything. I've shown you this before when we did the needle case. I'm just stitching that down. Not stitching, gluing it down and just patting it, and it will stick into place. If I'm going to use the wool rovings like this, I will just get a bit of wool roving and tease it out, and I can just put my wool rovings down. So I can felt that on, but I'm not going to felt it. I'm just going to freehand stitch it on, and it's sticking to my hands because they're glued. And I might even put some of that just sitting on top of there. Actually, I'll get a little piece. That would be quite nice. Go bring in the pink and the green and just sit that on there. So I'm going to drop my feed dogs down. Oh, I like that on there. Going to drop my feed dogs down. I'm going to leave my bright blue thread on, drop my feed dogs down, and I'm going to put on a foot that will do darning. So you can use many, many feet now. This one is the 70, I believe, 3 foot, and it's a height adjustable foot. So I can adjust the height up if I'm doing thicker work, or I can wind it down when I'm doing flatter work. So usually when I'm going to do work on felt or stitching or something like that on something, I am going to put tear away behind it. So this is the product that tears away after you've finished, so it doesn't have to stay behind there. Or you can leave it in for stability. So I'm just going to slip that under there. I might just glue that big one there on. Oh, wind it up. I'll just glue that on. And I'm going to plonk that on there like that. Wind that down. Put a bit of tear away behind this one. Slip that one out. And just put some tear away in behind here. So I'm not going to felt it on, I'm just going to freehand stitch it on. I'm just going to put that bright pink right there like that. I'm going to bring up my bobbin thread because I'm now on darning, and I'm going to put my machine onto straight sewing. Not bobbin thread, straight sewing. Oh, tell my machine that I've changed the foot or it won't let me do anything. So bring up the bobbin thread again, tapping it once back up, pull this top thread, and there's my bobbin thread. So I like to do that when I'm freehanding so that I've got both threads to start and it's really little. There it is there. Okay, so I've got both threads there, my top and my bottom. So I'm just going to sew in one place, then I'm going to cut my threads so that they're out of the road. Hopefully I've cut the right two. Done that before. There you go. And now I'm just going to stitch this down. Just going around in a circle. Now most of you will know I'm a real big fan of stamens. So those that haven't seen me do stamens before, I'll just quickly show you. So all I do is I do straight stitching and then a zigzag. So I'm going to make sure my top tension's down. Yes, it is, because I've already previously done it. Now I'm going to go out to the side and back and out to the side and then zigzag. Then back in. And don't always go to the centre because you'll make a big mess. So out to the side, back out, but not always back to the centre, and back out and do a stamen. And when you're using the fine threads, you can go over a lot. Okay, and it's really effective. Out to the side, back, out to the side, and zigzag. You can move it backwards and forwards a little bit to make it fatter. And it doesn't have to be perfect. If you want to, you can go right outside here and zigzag. Up. I can see my thread has shredded, so I'm just going to bring my needle up. I'm going to bring my thread back down, and I could see that it had shredded there. See that? All right, so I'm going to cut that off and rethread my needle. So I probably need to go a little bit slower. It's a very fine, fine, silky thread. I don't know if slow's in my vocabulary. My thread's still in the bobbin, so I can just stay on my zigzag. And it will just secure. It's fine. I don't have to worry about bringing it back up. Go back to straight sewing. Back down. Now, when you're going to go sideways, make sure you try and turn it on 90 degrees. Or else your zigzags will not be nice and centralised. So come out, go back, come out, and zigzag. And that's how I do all my stamens. Okay, and they're good fun. So I'll show you on this one. Here. So I've done this on a larger piece of felt. I've put a bit of wool rovings in the middle. I've zigzagged, which I'm going to show you next, and then I've done my stamens. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how you use this lovely number 12 weight thread, and this is the Italian thread. It's called Orifal, and it comes in lots of colours, and this is what I use for my needle case. Okay, so you definitely want to have your 90 needle in. So I'm going to lock this off. Remember, lock, wait for your machine to do all the work. This is looking kind of alienish, isn't it, with all my funny bits half done. And I'm going to put a piece of tearaway in behind this large piece of felt here, so it's covering the whole thing. And I'm just going to cut my thread. I'm going to pull it from the front down. I'm going to put on my foot, my open toe foot, number 20. I'm going to tell my machine I've done that. So I'm telling it I've put on my open toe foot, it's number 20, and I'm going to use a bright colour. Let's go with orange. I'm going to do the blue actually because I quite like it. So I'm going to put the blue on. Now, when you're using this thread and you've got a machine that can do 9mm stitches, take all your stitches out to 9mm. No matter what stitch you do, put your feed dogs back up, and I'm going to go right out to a beautiful big stitch and show you how it can look. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to tell your machine to do one pattern. So I'm going to tell the machine one pattern. So I'm going to thread this up. Remember, you need to have your foot up, hold your thread, thread your machine all the way to the bottom. Make sure it's through the tension disc before you let this hand go, and you won't have any problems with it not threading right. So I've threaded my needle threader. I'm bringing my bobbin thread to the top, but remember I want to change my tension. Now I'm going to show you in the mirror how to do this. So I'm moving sideways. On these machines, I go up here and I touch the tension disc. Now remember, it's going to be back to front for you. And I'm going to take this down. Can you see it turning yellow? If I clear it, it's back on 2.75. I can use this dial as well. And I'm going to take it down to about 1.5. So that's pulling my top tension to the bottom, so I get a much better stitch. Okay? Now I'm going to bring my bobbin thread up to the top, like that, before I start. Now I'm happy. I'm going to do it through the fabric. Bring my bobbin thread up to the top. Even though I'm not freehand stitching, because I'm using the thicker thread, I like to do this. Now, this stitch is going to do a cross like this, and it's going to sew down the center. So I want the center to be on the edge of my fabric. Okay, so on the edge of my curve. So I'm going to start here, and I'm centralizing this. So it's going to do a crisscross. Then it's going to go down on the edge. So I'm going to turn my work every stitch. So watch. Zigzag, cross over, and sew down the side. Turn my work, cross, sew down the side. Turn my work, cross, and sew down the side. Oh, I went too far, I didn't stop, sorry. I pushed my foot down again. The machine will stop if you stop. Now, if you don't want to use your foot control, you can put your speed dial down and push your start stop button. Oops. But remember, put single pattern back on. I forgot to push my single pattern back on. So now I can push my start stop button. That was nearly a disaster. Lift your work. Oh, I think I need to go slower. I've pushed it slower. That's better. Now I can control it. Okay, turn your work. Funny. Turn your work. See how lovely the thick thread looks? And I'm hoping you can see that, because it's really nice and thick. And because it's triple stitching, it makes a really nice finish. So there are times when I do go slow, and there are times when you need to. Now I can see, I can measure if I want to how long that is and see if I can fit 2 more in here. But I think we're going to be just about right. So I'm just going to stitch 1. And 2. And now I can turn my work. And I'll stitch 1 more. So that worked out really well, and I could tell just by judging it, but you can measure to make sure. Now this curve isn't so bad, so I can take it and do about 5 and be happy that I don't have to stop and turn. So I'm just going to go nice and slow, but it will continue to sew 5 times because I can see it's not such a big curve. I don't have to worry. I don't want to do any more than 5 just in case, because I want it to be nice and even. Okay, I reckon I could probably do 5 more if I just turn that a little bit. Try it again. Go a little bit faster. And I've set my machine to go slow so it won't go too fast. So be patient and you'll get a nicer finish. Now I want to change it and go back to single pattern around my curve. So I'm going to go back to single pattern. And it's going to stop. I'm going to lift and turn. Single pattern. And stop. And lift and turn. All these fluffy things here I'm just going to get rid of. Single pattern. And soft. Stop and turn. This thread I'm just going to pull to the back because I can see it. There we are. I'm just pulling that thread to the back, that grey thread, and getting it out of the road and finishing off around here. And I'm leaving this thread, you'll notice, because I'm going to pull it to the back and tie it off with the other thread when it gets there. I'm not going to knot it off with, I'm not going to lock it off with my sewing machine. See how nice and neat it looks when you do that? So by turning your speed down, you've got total control. Now this is where you get clever, so you do one more. And I reckon we're just about going to be right, but what I'm going to do when it does a straight stitch, I'm just going to help it. So I'm just going to do one more zigzag. And then I'm going to pull it a little bit. Perfect. And it finished exactly the same, so I just pushed that a little bit. Now I'm going to lift up my work. I'm going to take this out, cut my threads, and then what I do is I turn it over to the wrong side here, find my thread and get a pin. And you just pull your threads to the back. If you can't do that, what you need to do is just get a needle and thread it back through. There we are. Okay, and then the other one, I may need to thread it back through with a needle. That one there. So I just get a needle and thread it back through and tie them off. And that gives you your tidy finish there. Okay, now I think I showed you last time how to do these little circles. I cheated and I did them on the felt first. Yeah, I'll just get a bit of orange felt. No, not that piece. I'll just cut a piece of felt. Just quickly show you so you remember. So all you're going to do is put a bit of tearaway behind. I'm going to clear all that and I'm going to find my star. Should know the number off by heart by now and I don't. This one, here we go. It is number 711. It's already on the biggest stitch it can do. So what I do is I just do one single pattern. It's on single pattern and make one star. So just to remind you, do not bring that through. Just let it go. Pull this thread to the back so it brings your thread through. If you can't, there it is. If you can't, then get a needle and thread, pull it to the back. There it is. And the other one, pull it to the back. That's why you leave them nice and loose. Have I got it all? Okay, so it's nice and tidy on the top. And then tie all those together. Now when you're tying, if you get your bobbin thread and your top thread, and your bobbin thread and your top thread, just make a big circle, put your thread through once and tie it gently. For the second one, you're going to put your thread, make a big loop, and you're going to put your thread through the hole once and then through the hole twice. It's called a surgeon's knot apparently. And then when you pull it like that and pull it tight, that will never come undone. Okay, and then you can cut these here. Now I'm going to tear the tearaway off from around it, put my thumb on there and just tear it off around it so I don't damage my threads, and then I cut my circle out because I cheat, because otherwise it's too hard. And you can go as close to it as you like, or just make it so you've got some of the lovely orange around the outside. And every time I do it, I always have to go back because I never get it perfect. Doesn't matter. Okay, then I get my glue pen and I glue stick, oh, I always forget to wind it up. I glue stick behind here, and then I put it on where I want it, and I stick it on like that. I leave that to dry, and then I simply just anchor it through the center, either with a bead or just stitching it up and down to anchor them all over there. And that's how I do all of these. Okay, it's really, really nice and easy. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to embellish with the thread, and you can do all sorts of embellishing, but if you just pick a stitch you love and you just stitch it and follow your line, I put tearaway all on the back of here so that nothing pulls up. Look at the effect you get. I'll just show you this part here. Look how effective that is. So this one might just have stitches all over it, and this is just that same thread, but I have picked a lovely stitch and I have simply just slowly done it single stitch at a time, or sometimes 2 or 3. Now, because I was doing it at Banana Club, I've left my tails, so later on I can pull those to the back and pull them down. Remember what you've got to do though when you do this. You need to bring your top tension down, and you need to make sure that you go nice and slow. So you're going to do this exactly this method like I've done on here, and then embellish it any way you like. So this was all embellished, all in a flat piece like this, and then what you're going to do is sew the two together. So I might just stitch this together to show you. I'll stitch this one together to show you what you do to finish it off. So once you've embellished your whole piece of fabric, all you're going to do is put right side to right side. So I'm just going to show you with it, run it with a long stitch, and you make a big tube. Okay, so it's very, very easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put normal thread on top, and I'm just going to do a long stitch that I can pull out later, just so I can show you what you do. And I'll put white thread on so you can see it. Remember, turn that around that way. My foot is up, so I can thread and thread all the way down. Okay, and needle threader. So you are just going to do a straight stitch down here. You don't need to overlock it or anything. I'll just do a long stitch because I'll be pulling it away later. Stitch 1, clear everything so everything's back to normal sewing, and I'll lengthen it out. And I'll put the speed up. Okay, so you just join it all into one long tube. It's super, super easy to finish. You've got the measurements all on your notes, the size to make it. But there's just one little thing you might be interested in. When you turn this through to the right side, that's the easy part. Oh, by the way, I open up these seams and I press them, okay? So I just open them up and give them a press so that the seam's flat. Then I pull this through to the right side. But can you imagine when you try to push this in here, all of this comes off. So it all pulls off. So it's never going to work. So what you want to do is just get a bit of silky fabric and lay it on top so that when you push it down, nothing will get caught. So you just push it down with a nice silky fabric that's just going to feed through, and then push that all the way down, and then take your fabric off. Somebody said use a bread bag. You could do that as well, and then just get rid of your fabric. So then this would be tight. You've got that all the way through, and then you go, well, how am I going to finish this off? So what do? You can hand tack that, but before you do it, we use our brains. We put our machine onto a really long stitch length, the longest it can go, and we do 2 rows of gathering around our outer. So I'm going to run this foot along the raw edge of my fabric, like so. So 1 row, and it's on long stitch. Go all the way around, running it with the foot width along like that. And when you get to the other end, make sure you've left your tails, because you're going to be pulling them up. So don't overlap them, just butt them up together. Like that. And have a tail so they are meeting side by side, they're not overlapping. Now I'm going to do the second row, so get these out of the road. I'm going to do a second row. And I was intelligent and did this before I put it all through, because I remembered. So I'm running the foot, the edge of the foot on the inside, and doing my second row. To just work it round. You could take your sew plate off and do it round your arm of your machine if you want to. Really doesn't matter. And don't overlap it. 1 more stitch. Perfect. And don't use your scissors. You want your long tails. Okay, so now that that has got all my tails there, now I'll thread that back through and show you what you do. And this is how I finished it off. So just your silky fabric, put it on there so because it's going to be quite tight. Push it through all the way to there. And then take, you wouldn't use such a long piece, but this is a scarf I'm going to show you in a minute. Okay. Now, you've got your tails here. So you've got 2, 4 tails and the inside. So what I do is I separate them. So I've got my 2 to the left, that one, and that one. And then I pull this up. Okay, so I'm pulling this up really nice and tight, like that. And then I pull this one up really nice and tight as well. Then I just, as tight as you can go, and then as tight as this one can go, and then tie it in a knot. Where's my one? So you can see here. Okay? So as tight as it can go. Now, I haven't decided, but I think I might make a couple of yo-yos and hand stitch them on each end to finish that off. But before I do that, can you see, I'll open this one up. Can you see that you've got a hollow tube? You want to stuff that to make it heavier. So you could stuff old rags or old bits of fabric you don't want, and you want to stuff both ends so that it's all completely stuffed, because this is too light. You do not want it to be light when it's in a door. Now I'm just going to see if the camera can come down to that door, and I'm going to bring this and let's have a look and see. Let's see if we can show you what it's going to look like. See, so this is going in here like this, and that's what it's going to look like. So you don't want anything too thick, because I've made this the right length for you, and you can have it facing whichever way you want to have it facing. So if you put embellishments everywhere, it looks really nice, but they fit in there, and believe you me, that will stop a lot of draft, except for this door's pulled over too far. One moment. Okay, if that's on there, that's going to stop a lot of draft coming through in the winter. So they're a really useful draft stopper. So there you go. So you can decide how you want to finish this off, but nothing too tight. Or you could just put a nice big button on the end, would look really, really good, and thread it through to the other end before you stuff it. Actually, I might even do that. Or I could put a flower on each end, a felted flower. I haven't decided. But, you know, you could make these out of denim. You could make them out of old blankets. You could do all sorts of things. And have fun with your stitching, because your machines, gosh, they're so clever at what they can do. So obviously this one's too fat because I have to finish it off. But use up all your old scraps. Don't even hesitate. And if you do want any fabric rolls, we've got plenty at work. You can come in and ask for them, and we have a little saw. We can cut them to size, or you can just take them home and cut them yourselves. So there is the door stopper. It's got your instructions. You've got step by step. And I think you'll enjoy making those, especially in these cold weather. You'll be amazed, and you can make your house look really special by doing that. So there you go. So there is your Banana Club for your door stopper. So happy stitching, keep warm, and have a bit of pattern play and a bit of fun with your machines. And I'll see you next time.